Hey guys and girls, Board now back with you. On this video I will be talking about 1899 episode 4. It is called The Fights. Full spoilers from the start of this review. So this episode focuses mostly on Jerome alongside the ongoing rebellion on board the ship. I'll get to that stuff. Some of that stuff intersects with Jerome's stuff anyway. This is a really frantic, busy episode, but done in a very effective, well done way. And we get some big development with Jerome in this episode, and it makes me like the character even more. It makes me have even more sympathy for the character. The actor's doing a great job, I think, and he is fastly becoming one of my favourite characters, maybe my favourite character. So Jerome, we learn from his flashback, was actually caught up in the war, and we also see Lucy in there, and they know each other. They were friends. Now this is important because we've seen Jerome in scenes with Lucian's wife Clement, and it's been implied that they might know each other from somewhere, but neither one of them could seem to remember where from. So it's obviously an interesting twist that he knew Lucian from back in the war. And what the episode does well is the first flash of them, it's implied that they're friends, that they're in this together, and that they're both gonna, because they're talking about leaving together and starting new lives, because they're looking over the body of a dead soldier, and it's implied that they're maybe going to take his identity. And then the sort of hook is the Lucian actually hits Jerome with a gun, and he knocks out, and that's when he wakes up back on the boat, and it's the end of the flashback. And Romero is standing over him, which is quite interesting. And obviously, like, there's a certain group who have been locked in the brink from the rebels. You've got X, the captain, you've got Romero's there, and Jerome's there, and a couple of others. It's sort of crucial that the ones who speak out against the rebels are the ones who have been locked away in this cabin, in this room. But as we continue with the flashback later, it's revealed then Jerome, he was locked up by Lucian. He was locked up, and Lucian took his identity. And he's saying, why are you doing this? We're friends and all this. And Lucian said, sorry, I have to do this. And he says, I'm going to alert the authorities, and then you're a traitor, you're a deserter. So that explains quite a lot. That explains maybe why Jerome is on the run, why he's like desperate to like stow away on this ship and to like hide his true identity and past. That probably explains why he's nervous around Clement. Now, it doesn't really explain why she knows him, or she thinks she knows him, so I'm still wondering if there could be some sort of supernatural time travel thing involved in that. Or maybe it's possible at some point she met him through Lucian. We're not quite sure, because this is in the past a little bit. It's possible that Lucian and Clement might not even have met at that point. We do find out it's an arranged marriage, but I do like some of the stuff we're getting with Jerome and with Clement in this, because they do like bond, and they decide to work together and protect each other, because Lucian's off elsewhere. He obviously comes back from his night with Lin Ni, where he decided it was best not to do anything sexual with her. But so Clement is slowly being pulled off in the other direction, because they still have this tension between them, partly to do with the circumstances of their marriage. But she is drawn more to Jerome, and they like stick together, and they decide to side with the captain, because they decide what these rebels are doing isn't wrong, because they're going after the kid because it's pointed out to them by the crew member, then all these deaths on the ship started when the kid first appeared, when he came across from the other ship. So this all starts this witch hunt throughout this ship, where they're looking for, first of all, Marina, then the kid, because they know they're in the same cabin. At one point they go into Marina's cabin, he doesn't seem to be there, and it turns out he's hiding under the floorboards. And we build to like this big sort of rebellion and this continuing search for the kid. Things are being stoked up, so we see Christian, or Castian, once again having his head turned by his mother, who's really going extreme, really OTT. The sister is trying to talk the family out of it, particularly Castian says, this isn't what you are. It's not right. The kid doesn't have anything to do with this. And a lot of the tone is, even if he is responsible somehow, like going after and killing an innocent child isn't really the way to go about it. But anyway, all these tensions are being like stoked up because the mother has this line about wolves in sheep's clothing when talking about the kid. But you get a really action-packed episode as well, with all these different things going on. Because there's also a point where they go into like Angel's quarters, and he has, because they're looking for people in there, and he has a face-off with Castian, and it's when Castian, he says Castian's name, so they know that they know each other, and the mother's right there, and she's trying to shame Castian, like, how do you know this guy? And it's actually the best scene for Anton when it comes to, or Angel, sorry, when it comes to being like more sympathetic and having a bit more of a morality, because he actually speaks up for Castian and says you don't have to have, you can make your own decisions, you can be who you are. And once again we see the manipulation from the mother, because at the end of the scene Castian just slaps Angel and walks off. Well, spits in his face to be exact, and walks off. And that sort of, the mother feels like she's got the victory there. So that is the one scene where you like feel sorry for Angel. But we lead up to this big dramatic set piece on the deck where they're looking for the boy, and it's almost like a battle scene. And it's during that scene where Clement is like reaching out to Jerome, and that's when Lucien sees the two of them together, and he grabs her away, drags her away, and they go back to the cabin, and he starts saying things like, you don't know that man, you can't trust him, he's a threat. And once again, they're planting the seeds in the episode for like some of the stereotypes and some of the way people of colour have been treated during history. So I think that plays a bit into like that scene, but also even more so earlier in the episode, Jerome is at gunpoint is being forced to dump the bodies of the people who have died overboard. So we come to this big standoff where they're looking for the kid, and they finally find him because the kid and Marina have seeked out its ex, the captain, and it's Romero, and I think there's at least one other there, but those two have decided together to go to the lifeboats and go back to Prometheus. Because that's the other thing, because of the ship being made to disappear, it's sort of put a bit of a spanner in the rebels' work, because of course the two ships are connected, so that's put a bit of a spanner in their works. But anyway, yeah, Romero and Eck decide to go to the lifeboats because they want to go back to Prometheus. And that's when Marina, the kid, and I think there's at least... Jerome's there as well. They also find them. So I actually quite like them. We're starting to develop these little factions, and we're seeing who the two sides are, who's on what side, and the whole stakes of the thing. That's very nicely done. But they end up getting caught by the rebels. Jerome gets shot, although it's turned out he's only shot in the arm, so he survives, and that's why he has another scene later with Clement, because she was worried about him, because she was in that scene as well. But yeah, we get to this big battle on the deck, basically, and the rebels have also like held the other crewman at gunpoint because he isn't so willing to go along with all this. But we get this thing on deck. It's really well directed because Marina sees the boy off in the distance, and she sees he's in a vulnerable position because they're just planning on throwing him overboard is what they're trying to do, because in a previous scene the boy has already given himself up. So that's the whole thing, him acting quite like neutral, nonchalant about giving himself up, which probably suggests that he's probably already dead, or he's not exactly real, he's not like human perhaps, but he obviously seems casual about the whole thing. But Marina, once again, determined to protect him, determined to save him, and she gets caught up in the fight, and everything's done in slow motion, which is a good use of slow motion, and the boy is thrown overboard. The sort of evil religious woman throws him overboard. But then you get the twist at the end. Maybe not surprisingly, then he shows up back on board. There's like a sound because they're having discussions. I think it's at the point where Ek shows Marina the logbook that she found on Prometheus, and that the list of people on the ship includes her. And so he's trying to get an answer out of her, says, "Who exactly are you?" And there's some logic to this because obviously her brother was on the ship. So there's some logic to, yeah, then she could have been on the ship at some point. But it obviously brings into question who exactly is she, because she was, obviously to his knowledge, she wasn't on that ship, and that ship is now abandoned. So what exactly is her story? Once again, it brings up this idea then there could be some time travelling involved. But it's at that point where the rebels interrupt. Oh, sorry, not the rebels, but the sound starts coming from the cupboard, and the kid walks out, and that's the end of the episode. Fear the Reaper ends the episode, by the way, just to keep track of the music, which feels very relevant at the moment because of its use in the new Halloween movie and that whole thing. But I always enjoy hearing it. So really good episode, maybe the best so far in many ways. That's episode 4, The Fight. Great episode for Jerome. I'm really digging his character. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Once again, like and subscribe. Share me out on social media. If you want to support the channel monetarily, there is 2 ways. You can donate to my PayPal account. I'll put the link on this video, or you can support me at patreon.com/borednow for just $1 a month for extra perks, including X-Files commentaries. So you've got all those extras for just $1 at Patreon. But thanks for listening. Keep watching TV, and I'll see you again soon.